Hello Twitter! A few days ago I reached 9,000 followers and I very bravely or stupidly offered to answer your questions, and I said I would make a video to answer them, which again was probably more dumb than it was brave, but here we are, we'll see how it goes. This might be the first time that you're hearing my voice. This probably seems a bit weird, but yes, hello, I'm Emily, and yeah, I don't do this too often, so this is a bit terrifying. But yeah, I guess we'll just get straight into it. So the first question here is, who is your favourite fictional character? And okay, so I've got a few. So one of them would be Helena from Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, because she's just hilarious and awesome, and she's like 100% committed to her goal. 100%. And her goal seems to be is to chase this guy who she loves around a forest until he falls in love with her. And it's nuts. But she is 100% committed, and I really appreciate that. Another one would be Ada in Cold Mountain, the book by Charles Fraser. I absolutely love that book, and her character goes on a really, really interesting journey throughout the narrative in the American Civil War, and it's a really brutal book, and it's so interesting, and her character is great. And obviously there's a Le Guin one, so Thénard in the Tombs of Atuan. She is a really interesting character, and she's got so much power in that book from the very start. And then she goes on to lead this really, sort of independent path in the Earthsea Quartet. And I just really love her, I think, as a sort of supporting character to the Ged sort of main focus. I think she's brilliant. She's really interesting. Okay. Which member of the Sooty Show would get his or her own standalone feature-length movie? So this is Sooty, Sweep or Sue. And I have to go with Sweep. Yeah. I'm not going to explain that choice. Yep. Okay, next one. Have you ever had a supernatural encounter? Okay, so when I was a kid, I saw ghosts, but after having a few big temporal lobe seizures in like 2016, I was looking up different types of seizure, and it turns out that what I saw and experienced was like a type of simple focal seizure. So it turns out I had epilepsy as a kid, and the sort of visions that I had, along with the feelings that went with it, were definitely indicative of a simple focal seizure. And yeah, I mean, most of them, they can go on unnoticed, these different types of seizure. I mean, obviously everyone thinks of epilepsy and thinks of the big seizures where you're like unconscious and you're thrashing around and stuff. Those are just one type, and they're the grand mal seizures. But there's tons of different types of epileptic seizure out there. And yeah, I mean, it went unnoticed. I had epilepsy as a kid, never got diagnosed. That's probably why, because it's so easy to miss. And this was days before internet, so you couldn't just Google these things. And yeah, so they just saw me as a sensitive child who saw ghosts. But yeah, it wasn't that. So yeah, I mean, for a long time I did think that I'd had supernatural encounters, but it turns out I hadn't. Makes a lot more sense because, supernatural. Yeah, okay, so what celebrity do you look like? Okay, I don't think I look like any celebrities, but there are people out there who think that I definitely do. But I rarely get the same one twice, so yeah, I mean, I've had people say I look like Kristen Stewart. I've had people say that I look like, one person said Jennifer Aniston, and I was like, no. So like some people have said Rachel McAdams, like really bizarre, like like, I'm just like, no, I do not look like Rachel McAdams. I don't think I look like anybody, really. But hey, maybe one day I'll look like Emily Inkpen. Maybe. Maybe. What's your favourite movie? My Neighbour Totoro. It just fills me with joy and breaks my heart every single time, and I love it, and I can watch it over and over again, and it's wonderful every single time, and the music is fantastic, and I know it's like the obvious Ghibli one, but I love it. Okay, so where do you get your inspiration from? Okay, so inspiration comes from everywhere, and I like to think of my brain as just this giant mixing pot for all the mediums that go into it, and it all goes in there and lives and interacts and churns around and then gets spewed into whatever I happen to be writing at the time, or sort of percolates and distills until it's ready, and then my thoughts find their tracks almost, and then it's full steam ahead. But I think like all of that takes time, so it's not like your ideas or your inspiration happen and then boom, you've got an idea, you're running with it and you're writing words and you're getting it all out. All of that is a really lengthy process, and sometimes it's like I was working on one idea before the big one that I'm working on now, and it just wasn't ready. And I was thinking, okay, then the one that I'm working on now fell into place, so I've been working on that. And in the meantime, this other one is still going in the back of my mind. And I'm thinking, okay, well, at some point, when the other one's done, maybe this one will have matured enough to then click into place, and then I'll be able to run with it. So I think ideas need time. Inspiration needs time to shape itself in your mind. And if you force it, it just doesn't work, or at least for me, it doesn't work. Okay. The Seven Dwarfs from memory. Okay. Grumpy, sleepy, Doc, bashful, sneezy, dopey, and one short. No, okay, it might come to me later. Okay, what was the moment you fell in love with books? Okay, so I was one of those kids who fell hard for the Harry Potter series. It transported me, and it was this total and complete belief for me. I believed in the entire thing. It was, it was so consuming. I genuinely thought it was real. And when I started at high school, I was heartbroken because I hadn't got into Hogwarts. And I was like, there is no denying it anymore. I'm a muggle. And I was genuinely heartbroken by that. And obviously in the years since, I've sort of been like, okay, so it's not real. But there's part of me still that's like, it's kind of real. I'm just a muggle. Yeah. So yeah, that was probably the big moment when I fell in love with books, is when I just completely threw myself into that universe. And yeah, I mean, obviously that was quite a sad experience for me, but I think it triggered something, because it was my first year of high school when I wrote my first attempt at a book. So maybe that had something to do with it. It's like me trying to get over that heartbreak and be like, well, I can write a world too. It's like a breakup, coping strategy. Okay, so what's your favourite opening sentence? Okay, so this one's easy. At the beginning of The Dispossessed by Ursula Le Guin, the line is, "There was a wall. It did not look important." And I love this because it's so simple, but when you think about it, walls are like the most important thing. They're the most important things that we build, because they define the edges of everything. and they define what's inside, what's outside, what counts as inside or outside, can change an entire perspective on life. And walls are everything, even if they look totally mundane. And just that line, there was a wall, it did not look important, but it just, walls are very, very important. I've written a blog on it. It's like quintessential, like basic world building. Build your walls first. Okay, what's your favourite word? Omphaloskepsis is my favourite word, not only because it's super fun to say, but because it means the intense examination and contemplation of one's own navel. So basically navel gazing, omphaloskepsis. Where did you buy your signature woolly pulley? I think the one we're talking about here is the deep red one that's sort of slash neck. I like to joke because it's like an off the shoulder woolly pulley for those times when you want to like sex up your knitwear, which is just hilarious. But it is also my favourite, and I got it from H&M of all places. Best. Right, okay. What place does fiction have in the world? Okay, so I genuinely believe fiction is everything, and actually most things are fiction. Even our history is fiction, because like when accounts are written from certain perspectives and histories are written by biased hands, and memory is certainly fiction because it is not in any way reliable, and almost every time we recall an event we're rewriting it in our minds. And you know, the news that we read is probably at least 50% fiction, or angled, or skewed, and maybe actually 50% is optimistic. Maybe it's more fiction than that, but I'm gonna be kind here. I think fiction is basically our world, and in fact, okay, so if you think about it like that, the only thing that is true is fiction, because it's not pretending to be anything else. So maybe, okay, yeah, I think that's probably that. Okay, so how do you discipline your writing? That's difficult. So when I hit a wave of creativity, I ride it. But when I'm in an average phase, I just make sure I'm working hard and steadily all the time. And I don't set myself word goals, because generally I don't have trouble with motivation. Sometimes there's a good day and sometimes there's a bad day, but progress is always being made. And I find that if I put a word goal to that, it just adds stress at times when the words aren't coming, and maybe makes me lazy on the days when they are, because on the days where they are coming, I can write like thousands of words in one day. But if I have hit my word target for that day at like 800 words, you know, why carry on? I've hit my limit, you know. That in the past, that has sort of made me think, okay, well, I'm done for today then, even though I could carry on. So yeah, I just go with however it's sort of flowing at the time. It's not very disciplined, but I guess the discipline is as long as it's moving forward. That's what matters. If you could be any sort of root vegetable, what would it be, and why would it be a rutabaga? So a rutabaga, I looked this up, is actually known as a swede here in the UK, and it is delicious, especially when mashed. But I'm not sure I'd be a swede. I think personally I'm more of a sweet potato kind of gal. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Favourite voice actor in gaming? So that would be Steve Bloom, who played Vincent Valentine, and he has got the most amazing voice. It's just so deep and like gravelly, and honestly I could just listen to it all day. Okay, if you could meet a historical literary figure, who would it be and why? Okay, so I don't really like the idea of meeting my heroes because it's never going to end well. But I would want to meet Shakespeare because I would really like to know if he was in fact Marlowe. I just want to know that. I'm not one of these big conspiracy theorist people, but I'm just interested. Like, that would be fascinating. Okay. How do you keep yourself motivated to write on a regular basis? Okay, fear. So the fear of stopping and losing motivation is a big driver for me. The only way to be motivated is to maintain it, or at least that's how I kind of feel. Like, it's like just keeping going, and it's really hard to get going again once you've stopped. So motivation and the fear of stopping. There we go. Okay, what is your preferred POV to write in, third, second, or first? Okay. Each has its place, and I use third person a lot, but sometimes you need to use first person because it's just immediate and there's a certain energy behind it, and immersion as well for the reader, that you get this sense from first person that you can't get in third. And some stories require that. So I would say whatever the story calls for. I've never written in second, so I don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, third person probably favourite, first person close second. What's your latest whip about? Okay, so The Blood Road is it's going to be a trilogy, so I'm on book 3 now, and book 3 is about characters who have already been on a long journey. And the journey is about to come to a close, and I mean, it has to come to a close, and they know that it's going to be messy, and most of the book is this is all spoilers. There's not been spoilers up until now. That's all you're getting. It's got to come to a close. Right. Nice try. What's your all-time favourite game, and why is it Quake 2? Okay, I've never played Quake 2, so I couldn't say that that's my favourite. It's actually probably Skyrim, just because I keep going on holidays in Skyrim. It's my forced holiday game. It really makes me relax. It's got this chill soundtrack, and you can just pootle around in it, and sometimes I won't quick travel to places because I'd rather just ride there on my horse and see the sights and take it in, and you know, it's just wonderful to relax in. So yeah, that one. Oh, and probably Final Fantasy VII, just because it had such a profound impact on me, story-wise and character-wise and everything. It just really hit me back when it all came out, back when I was a teenager, when I got really into it. So yeah. Any suggestions for developing one's creativity, inventiveness, or imagination? Okay, not really, but just be an input slut. So don't discriminate, take it all in, and think about the fact that you are taking it all in. That is quite important, to be aware of the fact that you're taking everything in. So always be aware and think about how you're taking information in. What impact is this information having on you? And okay, another thing to do, you can listen to music with your eyes closed and just allow images to appear in your mind and to take you on journeys. Music is a huge tool for me. I can't live without it, and yeah, that, like, whole worlds can just come into your mind when you're listening to music, or they do for me anyway. What would you say to your younger self? Okay, younger me. Emily, it is likely that you have autism. Don't be such an emotional wrecking ball, and stop watching Sex and the City. It's not good for you. I'm not going to expand on that. Okay, if you could time travel, where would you go? Okay, so I'd want to go to the future, because I wouldn't want to go anywhere pre-antibiotics because I get sick often. So I think I'd just be screwed if I went into the past. Before that, I'd die really, really quickly. So yeah, I just want to know if we'd killed ourselves like 1,000 years in the future. That would be cool. See if cyberpunk is actually our lives. Okay, which authors inspired you before setting out on your writing career? Okay, so Rowling is controversial these days, which is annoying that she's done that. But yes, she was a big inspiration to me early on. Latterly, Le Guin, obviously, Philip Pullman, Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, all those folks. Okay, how do you maintain your health and fitness? So I'm strict with myself, and once I decide to do something, that's my line and I'm doing it, and that's probably part of being neuroatypical. And you know, I just have to make sure I get some activity in every single day. So on days when I wash my hair and I'm going to do like be fully clean, at the end of it I get like a proper sweat on with we've got an exercise bike that we got for lockdown, which is a great idea, and I just go crazy on that. And so that's on those days. The rest of the time I use my weighted hula hoops, which are really great for strength, and I just make sure that I get up and I'm moving, doing that and getting the blood circulation going. And the rest of the time it's floor exercises. I do floor exercises. I've been doing the same ones every night since I was 14 years old, which again is like, that's my thing. I decided I was going to do these every night, and I have, and it's been going for over 15 years. Oh god, 17 years. Oh, okay. Yeah, so what can you tell us about your upcoming sci-fi novel? And when can I read it? And what are your top tips for querying literary agents? Okay, so book 1 is in publisher submission right now, and I really hope someone buys it. If that doesn't happen, I will be self-publishing, so I can promise you it will be coming out sooner or later. As for agents, you've got to start that relationship like you're going to be spending years working with them. And I think that's really, really important. Consider them. Consider it as a relationship and make every single query personal. I was looking at the here's how to write a cover letter to a literary agent guides, and they're all really succinct and impersonal and like just short. And that's not my style. I didn't do reams, but as soon as I ditched that and made my submissions personal, individual, this is why I'm applying to you, this is what my book is about, I'm interested in you because of these things, you know, I think, you know, and just be genuine. That had far better results. And at the end of the day, you could be working with this person for your entire career. This could be the most important relationship in your career. And you've got to treat it with respect from the start. And yeah, I mean, I applied to 7 agents in total. And yeah, I got good reception, and that's because, I mean, all of them great people, and you know, at the end of the day, it's important. Don't mass apply, don't submit to masses of people every go. Well, if nothing else, because that's a lot of rejections you're potentially setting yourself up for. So that's a lot of feedback coming back. Not only do agents know when they're getting a mass application of people, which is impersonal, but you're like I feel like you're more likely to get rejected from somebody if you mean nothing to them anyway. And so you're just setting yourself up for loads and loads of rejections, I think, and that's not good. You want to, it's quality, not quantity. Okay, so what's your main driver in life to keep going? Fear, again. My dad died when he was 63, and he was a musician, and he wasn't done, so he wanted to do more with his life, and if I get to that point, I want to know that I have done everything that I physically can while alive. And yeah, so I guess it's fear. I think I hit my midlife crisis early, thanks to that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so what about your background has most helped you as a writer? So this includes subjects, experiences, and family. Okay, so I was allowed to be bored as a child. In fact, I didn't get much choice over that. So my parents didn't take my sister and I on too many outings all the time. You know, they didn't entertain us. Television was when they said we were allowed to put it on, and not always. And we didn't have any tech at the time. Actually, we didn't have gaming consoles, so although I'm a massive gamer now, when I was a kid and I was growing up and I was a teenager, didn't have any consoles then. So I was allowed, so that means that basically there was a lot of imaginary play going on, hours and hours of it. And that definitely helped. Then also another thing would be, my dad read my sister and me The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings a little bit every single night. I was 6 when he started, and my sister was 9, and he was just going to read it to my sister, but then because I was the younger sibling and I was like, I want to be involved. So 6 years old, and my dad's sitting on the end of my bed reading The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. So I had experience really, really early. Some of my early childhood memories are of listening to this really big, quite advanced book, and just letting the images run through my mind while I'm listening. So yeah, that probably really helped just spark things. Have you ever done ballet/dancing? Yes, ballet. I chose ballet and I love it. I'm rubbish at it, genuinely, but I definitely recommend it, even if you are rubbish at it, because it gives you an incredible strength. Ballet is one of those things, like, and your posture will never be the same again afterwards. Your posture will be amazing, and people have commented on my posture before. It's just strong and it's straight and it's, yeah, I know how to carry myself, and if that's all you get from dance, it's worth it. So yes. Would you rather make millions in your lifetime or have the adorations of millions after death? Well, I kind of think you can have both, because because if you make millions in your lifetime, then you can spend that money doing really, really great things. And if you spend it well, then those people will probably remember you after you die. So I'm going to say both. I want my cake and eat it too on this one. Okay, in your opinion, how many eggs are needed to make a proper omelette? 3. I commit. You know, when you're doing something, do it properly. Right. If you could work on any video game series, what would it be? Final Fantasy. It's just so varied, and the characters are really interesting, and they've been doing interesting things with storytelling for a long time. And yeah, I think, yeah, that would just be dream. It's never gonna happen, but you know, if it did, I'd be like, if you could choose one popular franchise to be involved with for the rest of your career, which would it be? Okay, so the rest of my career on one franchise. That kind of sounds like creative purgatory. I'm not gonna lie. In that case, I would also probably say Final Fantasy again, just because it's so different every single game. Completely different cast, completely different worlds, completely different everything every single time. But I'm not sure I'd want that for my entire career, like decades. Yeah. I think for creativity you kind of need to move around a bit more than that, but Square, if you want to hire me, Square Enix, don't listen to that reply. I will happily sell my soul. Okay, just for the record. Of all your artistic pursuits, which is your favourite? Writing, visual art, or music? Okay, writing. It's where I'm home. It's where I'm most comfortable, and it's like my greatest escape. Yeah, hands down. If not writing, which profession would you choose? Okay, so this took a bit of, this is an interesting one. Probably acting, because I wanted to be an actress for years, but my parents weren't particularly supportive of that. My mum would say differently these days, but at the time, well, I remember it very differently. Anyway, I guess I like to escape, whether that's into another character or not. Maybe that's influenced my writing though, because one of the things my agent has said to me is that when he's reading my work, it feels like he's reading a movie. And maybe that's it in my head. It's all happening. I'm like a director in my head. And I'm like, no, you've got to be there, and you've got to be there, and you've got to be there, and yeah. And yeah, I see it so completely vividly that it's like movie directing. Yeah. Hey, who knows? Maybe one day it'll happen. Just a little bit. That would be cool. Maybe I'll be an actress a little bit. Okay. What new methods have you discovered along your journey to 9,000 Twitter followers? Do you have any tips for beginners? Okay, well, I have no idea how I got to 9,000 followers, and I'm still in shock. So it's quite difficult for me to answer this question. I don't know. I'll say probably to just, this is going to sound really cheesy, but you just got to be yourself and be genuine and be kind. Strive to be a positive force as much as possible, because I think you attract like-minded people, and I'd far rather be surrounded by nice people and kind people than I would by people who are negative and mean. And I have to say, like, I am so lucky in the I've met so many awesome people on Twitter, and the community has literally changed my life. And I genuinely care about everyone I talk to on Twitter, probably too much. You know, like, I genuinely do care. And, you know, I mean, I've made friends with a lot of people on there. I've met some of them in real life in the before COVID times. I met some of them, and it's amazing how, like, there's exactly the same people in real life, and you're like, are you real? And I was like, yes, you're real. And yeah, I mean, I just think if you are getting to know people on Twitter, just remember that behind every single avatar picture there is a person, and that person deserves respect and deserves to be treated well and deserves kindness. Simple, really. You know, I'm not out there to churn and get followers. I'm out there to make friends and to meet colleagues in the writing industry. Everyone who's a writer is a colleague to me, and that's how I view Twitter, as basically a big circle of colleagues, and we're all in it together. And yeah, I have no idea how 9,000 happened. That's as good as I can give on advice, but really it's not advice. Okay. Oh, last question. Okay, what would your Patronus be? Okay, so I did this test and I came up with a squirrel, which I didn't like at the time, because I guess everyone wants a tiger or a wolf or something like really badass, and then I got a squirrel and I thought, what? And then I was like, actually no, that's kind of appropriate, you know, I'm okay with that. And I think it would be like if I had a demon as well from like the Philip Pullman universe, it would probably be a squirrel as well. You know, and it could be worse. I mean, like, they're agile, nifty. God, that's English. They're cute. So yeah, a squirrel. Okay, well, that was the last question, and yeah, I'm gonna listen back to this now and with my head in my hands and think, oh my god, that's my voice out loud. Oh. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. It's sort of gone on a bit longer than I thought it would. Ooh, half an hour. If you're still here, thanks for listening. And if you've got any more questions, shoot whenever. Yeah, I'll always do what I can to help, and I'll always do what I can to reply to everybody. And yeah, I'll keep chatting to you and keep seeing you. And thank you, everybody. Or 9,000. Oh my god, it's crazy. Yeah, thank you. Whoa, the screen just leapt back into life. Yeah, thank you, everybody, and I hope you're enjoying your Saturday night.